Hi, Prakash. It's Vishnu. Thank you so much for
Hi, Vishnu.
joining us on our call. So Prakash Nedungadi has joined the party recently. He is president of the SR ward in Bangalore and also part of the PSC. So thank you for joining us this evening, Prakash.
Thanks for having me, Vishnu.
So could you just give us a brief background about you? I know you work in the corporate world. You were the CEO and executive in many of the top companies in India. A little background about how you got into the Madi party.
I was born in Kerala several years ago in a small village, but grew up in Delhi in various places around, in fact, around the world. My dad was in the external affairs. He started as a lower division clerk and ended up as an undersecretary. So we traveled a few countries in the world. I was in Washington during my very formative years, during the years of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, Vietnam, Woodstock, all that. Then came back to Delhi, then went to some very good schools, Delhi Public School, Arkipuram, St. Stephen's College, then IIM Calcutta, and then joined. I kind of was always interested in public service. I thought I would join the IAS. I tried the IAS after IIM. Didn't get in because the paper I got the lowest marks in was actually management, which is and that was the thought I thought was the best. But I had joined Hindustan Lever, which is one of the best organizations in the country at that time in marketing, and went through the management training stint. I spent 15 years there, various sales, marketing, supply chain assignments, general management in India, in Germany, Europe. And then I joined Gillette. I was the vice president of marketing for India. I was then in Dubai, both as the director of Middle East and Africa for Gillette, and also worked in Procter & Gamble. And in the Aditya Birla Group, I joined the Aditya Birla Group in two stints, and I was the CEO of a company called Madura Garments, which is their fashion company, which is, I don't know if some of you know brands like Louis Philippe and Alan Solly. So I was the CEO of that company, and then I was the group head for customer insights and brand development for the group. So all our companies, whether they were the Idea Cellular or Ultratech Cement or Hindalco or financial services. So I got a huge exposure to the entire gamut of industry, both in B2C, B2B, etc. So that was my journey. I was always interested in in social, doing something. I'm sure many of you are like to right from school and college, and was member of the students' union, was the head boy of my school, was a students' union member in IIM, and tried to help out whenever I could. But corporate life was very busy, and as I started leaving corporate life, I said I want to do something different. I actually spent 2 years with a school, with an organization I have found called the Teacher Foundation, which does school teacher training. So we trained about 100,000 teachers in that organization in government schools, in affordable private schools. I've sat in village schools, very low-end schools. And we also trained, students in the upper-end schools as well. It's a social enterprise. So it's got a sustainability model that says, we will charge fees from the upper-end schools, and then we will take donations and things for the lower-end schools. But that's how we stay competitive and stay sustainable. So I've done that. I'm still a trustee of that organization. I'm also a coach. I have accreditation from the International Coaching Federation. So I'm a business coach, really. But like I said, I was interested in moving on. And the last 1 year, I've really been wondering what's happening in our country, actually for some time, but the last 1 year, particularly after the last general elections, I've always voted Congress, to be honest, and my family has. So I walked over to the Congress office in Bangalore after the last general election and said, pretty disappointed with what Congress has done. I'd like to be a member and help in whatever way I can. And I got no response. I got such a poor response that I actually had to go twice or thrice. And finally, I got the sense that if I don't bring money, it's really no point. And And I was very disillusioned by the energy, the kind of atmosphere there was really disappointing. And I thought that they just got kicked in the elections. They should be thinking about what next to do, and there was none of that. And then I got involved in the CA protests. So I was very active. I've been to Shaheen Bagh, I've been to Bilal Bagh in Bangalore, Mumbai Bagh. I've been to Lucknow and Chandni Chowk. So everywhere I traveled in the night, I would spend in one of these places. And it got me a sense of activism and what we can do there. But I also realized that activism has its limitations. And I thought that while it was important because the CA protests were important, but unless you are in power, you can protest a lot. But very often the ruling party will, or the opposition will use the protest for their own benefit. And so that's what I learned. And then the lockdown happened and COVID happened, and I was involved in a lot of the migrants or the guest workers. As in Kerala, they call them the guest workers, and I think that's a better name, to help them get back home. And I just happened to stumble into it once during a webinar. And 3-4 days, I was talking to the Revenue Secretary of Karnataka, trying to help arrange buses, trains, becoming a kind of a point man for that. And then actually going and, helping some of these people, getting calls, right through the night, people trying to get onto trains or getting them back when they were walking. I remember a pregnant lady walking out of Bangalore, walking towards UP. And, it's so bizarre thinking of walking from Bangalore to UP, but this is what they were doing. And, I wanted to get them back. The police said if they come back with the train, they'll put them back. We didn't have a vehicle. It was curfew, lockdown time. So Aam Aadmi Party, I got in touch with them. They helped get a vehicle. And I also then, so that was the kind of thing. And I was also donating a bit to the Aam Aadmi Party at that time to help with food kits and things. And that's how it happened. So as I superannuated from the group in August, I was pretty clear what I wanted to do. And, I wandered into the Aam Aadmi Party office in January. I liked the energy of the people. I found all kinds of people, ex-bureaucrats, IT guys, entrepreneurs, auto rickshaw drivers, car mechanics, retailers. We're a big bunch of guys, but all with a pretty clear purpose. Not very organized, fairly chaotic, but fairly purposeful in that sense. And I think I like the energy. They told me just attend whatever meetings you want and just observe. So I just used to hang around on Saturday afternoons, watching what was going on. And I like the feeling of the people. So when in August, when I decided to leave the group, I said, look, this is the party I want to join. So I joined on September 1st, which is just about, 80 days now. And the first 90 days in the job is supposed to be very critical. I don't have any career ambitions as such. I've done all that career stuff. So when I joined, they asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, I'll do whatever you want. I'll be telephone operator if you want. But I really want to work in my ward because I think it's important to understand the ground realities of a ward. And so they said, why did you become president of your ward? Because there's no one in Aam Aadmi Party there, which was a surprise to me. But I said, fine. And I took it up. And since then, I've been, president of this ward, walking the streets, trying to get people to know that Aam Aadmi Party is here. I'm here. And really understanding what they need and what they want and what a ward is all about. What does the ward do and how does it work and all that. And the last 2-3 weeks, I've also been made a part of the political action committee to try and analyze some key issues where we can find issues and where the government is really, where corruption can be exposed and where there are clear instances of misgovernance. So I'm working with a team to do that. And that's pretty interesting. So I've actually worked pretty much as hard as I've ever worked in the last 2 months. I don't think I've worked harder than that. And but I think it's been fun, and I think it's fun in a sense. It's been purposeful and meaningful, And it's been frustrating for sure, but it's been meaningful. And I think, yeah. So that's about me. My wife is a doctor. I have 2 daughters. One is in Oxford doing an MPhil. The other is just got into college. And I have a lovely golden retriever. So, Vishnu, that's about me.
Thank you. That's a wonderful journey that you've had so far. It's quite inspiring with the things that you've accomplished already. About the guest workers that you worked with, how was your experience working with the administration, and also like what sense of these guest workers when they were not asked to, but they were forced to leave? So how was that whole experience, both the administration and the people who wanted to leave?
Yeah, so, it was so eye-opening. I think the fact that the government missed this huge group of people. We imposed a lockdown with 2 days' notice or something, and nobody thought about all these people who would be stuck, and 8 people to a room, 12 people to a room, because that's how they live. 3 weeks down the line, lockdown, somewhere in the 3rd week of April, I wrote an article which was published in, I think, in Mint or one of these magazines, newspapers, where I talked about the misery of staying in a lockdown when you're, 10 people in a room, 8 people in a room. We have been in lockdown, I think, most of us, but we've been in our houses or in apartments, and we haven't had to find that struggle. The way they live, these guest workers, is they operate in shifts, so there's always somebody going out and working. So you kind of have your own space. You also have space to go out. You can go out to, the market or the park, or you can just go and be by yourself for some time. You don't have to be at home, because at home, on this room where you live in, you can't be by yourself. And now they were stuck, 24 hours a day in these rooms. So it was not just the economic issue, which was of course, there was an economic issue. They were not earning money and they were getting food rations, etc. But I think what really broke them was just this misery of staying, in a place where you have no hope, and you have, you just have to stay. It's so claustrophobic, and they just were walking. And first, we couldn't believe it, and it was sad that the administration didn't pick it up at all. The magnitude of this disaster. It is the biggest migration that has happened probably in a long, long time, since our independence, I guess, and as painful. So when I started, I stumbled onto it in a webinar. I started talking to people. So with the guest workers themselves, so like I said, one was misery, and you have to understand that. The second was just this idea that I have to go tomorrow. I'll walk or I'll go by. If you can't get my train, I'll walk. And you have to convince them, and be patient, and at the same time try and get trains going. And that was something. I had, and then all kinds of things. I remember one night at 1:00 in the morning, there was a guy says, I want to go tomorrow morning, but I'm not being let go by my landlord, and because I haven't paid him 3 months rent, he wants the rent, and because I just got him tickets on the train, a place in the train, and he was saying, this guy is saying I can't go. So I said, okay, put him online, and I got the landlord online, and he was saying, look, I can't let him go because he has not paid his rent, and just on 25,000 rupees or for 2 months rent, and we need to do this, and it was crazy, and then I had to say, look, why don't you think about it? Look, what is this, this is a situation. Why don't you think about, where he is? And, so basically the landlord and his wife started talking about it at 1:00 in the morning amongst themselves while we were waiting on the phone call. And then I found that there was some other dynamic to it, which we tried to resolve. And by 2:00, he said, fine, it's okay, let him go. And then we got this guy on the train. There were other cases where I was on a call with one of our board of directors, one of our board meetings, and 11:00 in the morning, I get a call from one of these guys and saying, sir, the police are not letting me go. You told me that I can go on this train. And I said, you can go on the train, talk to this particular police officer. And And he went to the police, or he called me and said, "Sir, they're beating me up. They're hitting me with dandas if I go and ask this guy." So I left the board meeting and I rushed there and, met the guy that said, "See, this is the court does, his place is there." And he got in, and so, that kind of stuff, which was a very different kind of experience for me. I must say the police, I found the senior police officers pretty reasonable. And they went out of their way to help. The junior police is police. They were told to manage this. The cops, the constables only know one thing, how to whack people. Ask them about empathy and all that, they don't know. So, but the senior police officers, I thought, were understanding. They tried to help. The revenue officer tried to help. The revenue secretary was in charge of this whole guest workers movement. He tried to help. Sometimes he went incommunicado, but by and large, if I pushed him hard enough, get a train for Orissa, get 2 trains for Orissa, that kind of thing, he would push it, and he had his own limitations. But I think they missed the whole plot. They were really not prepared for it, and when they realized it, they did too little, too late. As they call it in just too little, too late. So yeah, that was the experience. It was something we forget it now. It's because after that, COVID has happened even more and life has moved on. But really, the month of May, end April, May, early June, mid-June, the biggest migration I think that we would have seen in our lifetime since our independence, and maybe even in the world, happened. And I think we are ashamed of how we let it happen. And I hope we learned, but I hope we're learning something from there about guest workers and what rights they should have and how they should be treated. Because the other issue was politicians didn't come. It was the bureaucrats who were dealing with it. Politicians didn't come to handle it because these are not voters. They're not local voters. So the politicians were busy distributing their food kits amongst their voters. And all we were seeing among guest workers were the police officers, the bureaucrats, the IAS guys, and volunteers like us. So that's also an eye-opener about, when you bring back guest workers in places like Bangalore, there's plenty in every urban city. How do you think about their rights? How do you think about their security in such situations? And it is something that we should not forget as we go forward.
Absolutely.
So, Vishnu, you'll have to keep me on time. I might talk more than what you want. So, this is too boring. Forget it. Shut up.
No, it's all interesting, but I also want to get the audience involved. So if anybody has a question for Prakash, I'll be happy to take it.
I have a question. This is Arun from Boston. I have a question for Prakash.
Go ahead, Arun.
Yeah, Prakash. Hi. Hi. Question for you. I realize the elite background that you're coming from, and we find that there is a paucity of such people joining up. Given what you have done so far and what you have seen so far, can you tell us why that is happening?
Why senior leaders are not joining Aam Aadmi Party?
Yeah.
But they're not joining. Most of them are not joining any party. First of all, most of them are not joining any party.
Okay.
And because politics is so dirty, politics is so. You should see my mom, and I'm living. She's 86, and I've come to see her here because since January I didn't see her, and I was worried, so I took 5 days to come here before maybe we have to get into election mode in Bangalore when I get back. So I said, let me see her. I mean, she's horrified that I've joined politics. How could you? You're such a senior guy, and did it come down to this that you have to do this and so on? I mean, the whole idea of getting into politics is such a dirty thing for most people. They've gone and
my thing is, don't you see the brand that we have? Don't you see what we are doing? Don't you see how different we are from politics itself? We are like totally 180 degrees away from what a typical political party is.
I think we have to get back in that mode. I honestly feel that there was a lot of that kind of movement in the period up to 2015-16. But after that, to be honest, it's been a bit of, so we have a lot of detractors also. We have detractors who left us, who in my ward, for example, I have detractors who don't say nice things about Aam Aadmi Party, and they say, oh, it's like this, etc. And we don't have enough, I think we have to do, to be honest, a better job of marketing ourselves there to people. But I think also the like you said, the elite. I don't know if they look at they look at Aam Aadmi Party and trying to wonder whether we are really for real. I think they're still thinking, are we really for real? They are wondering if we will go the distance. So first of all, a lot of them are definitely BJP supporters. They are mesmerized. They think that was the right thing to do with Modi, and so on. And many of them, have this, sort of feeling about the whole Hindutva thing, etc. So there are enough people like that. I think. So first of all, I would say, Arun, that there is a general problem of people getting into politics, and I think the Aam Aadmi Party, the aura that we had, which is a different kind. Now you see what we become is we become a party that, rightly so, needs to look at how do we win elections, not just the activism. So a lot of people mistake that. I myself mistook that, as activism from politics. And so while a lot of people would like to have activism, when it comes down to politics, they say, hey, but can we do that? I mean, it's, now you're starting to, do it for power, etc. And we say, yeah, we are doing it for power because without power, you can't do anything. So you could just scream to the rooftop. And that's what we showed in Delhi what we can do when we are in power. So I think we have to tell people a bit more about it. I think we have to get people now to get more and more convinced that this is the right thing to do. I just spoke, just this evening to one of the most senior strategy guys in the country, I feel, in business strategy. He writes regularly in Times. He's a social anthropologist. He's a social strategist, really. Very, very, real mind. And when I told him that I hadn't had a chance to tell him, I told him, look, I've joined Aam Aadmi Party. He said, fantastic. This is the one party that can make a difference. And so I think we're going to see people joining up, but we have to also tell them to come in, and we have to walk the talk on how we promise to do things. So they are pretty clear about it. That's what I would say. I don't know if I've answered your question, Arun.
Yeah, you did to a certain extent. And so, what I'm saying is it's pretty evident who we are, what we do, what our values are, what we bring to the table. And it's very disappointing that the elite are keeping away. One reason I heard from someone was that they're scared that Modi will beat them up, So even, and even there is a tacit support from many people, but not openly, because they might end up with the income tax or the CBI. So that seems to be one of the reasons. Okay, I'm done with my question. You can go ahead.
But I'll tell you a couple of other things. Arun, just to build on what you're saying, just a couple of things. I think, like I said, when you realize that what Aam Aadmi Party is doing, you realize that it is the intellectual part, or that very liberal kind of thinking is, so people think that a lot of the people who are corporate, there are two types. One is they believe that what Modi is doing and BJP is doing is right, and they go there. That's a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are saying, well, that's not right, and we should be doing this, and they're far more liberal. But for the liberal people, their idea of liberalism is focused on such a narrow electorate that we will never win an election like that, is my feeling. And therefore, and that's what Aam Aadmi Party also has realized, I think, and that if we have to work to win an election, we have to appeal to a broader mass of people, which means that we have to, our brand has to appeal to them in a certain larger way, in the way they look at things. And that's not necessarily the way the intellectuals look at things. So then the intellectual says, hey, this is like, whatever, I have a problem with this. And so some of them don't join there. And I think that's part of the problem. And people have to understand, get the feeling that, look, it is, you have to get your hands really dirty when you come here. And because that's what Aam Aadmi Party is all about. It's about really getting down there and getting things done honestly and with integrity. But you have to get down there and do it. And it's not just about overall strategy and thinking about liberal thoughts and assuming that those are thoughts which the common man fully accepts and imbibes, and you can just win him over like that. So if you like, the formula that some people think about is not what Aam Aadmi Party has found will work. And I think we have to get people to understand that and then come forward. So, Arun,
Prakash,
I hope I answered a bit of your question. Yeah, go ahead.
So just to follow up on this topic, since you're an expert in marketing and strategy, what are your thoughts on branding in Indian politics? It seems like BJP has done a good job of branding itself over the last 10 years and also branded its opposition in a certain way, that they're corrupt. And branding is so strong that even when BJP does stuff at the lower levels of corruption, it doesn't really stick because the branding is so strong that they're nationalists, they're not corrupt, and stuff like that. So how do you see branding in Indian politics, and is that something that you're thinking about for our party?
Vishnu, I have I'm right now in the mode of trying to understand, and really listen to voters and listen to influencers, and because in any brand strategy, I believe first you have to listen, and so I'm spending a lot of my time listening there before I can say that I want to create a brand, a brand strategy for Aam Aadmi Party. But there are thoughts in my mind, of course, and I would say that there are certain elements which are very strong for the Aam Aadmi Party, which whether it's we have a structure. In Unilever we call it a brand compass. In Aditya Birla we call it a brand key, and in Aditya Birla we call it a brand compass. And it's basically how you create a brand. What are the essential elements of that? And it includes of course the competition, but it includes what is your brand essence, what is your purpose, who is your target customer, who's your what's your brand personality, what are your distinctive assets, what is your value proposition relative to competition, what are your reasons to win, etc. So there are about 8 or 9 elements, and I think they pretty well fit with this as well. And I would take a stab at that to say that I haven't really completed the exercise, but I would say that the brand purpose and essence of Aam Aadmi Party is pretty clear. The anti-corruption, the fact that we want to clean up and we're going to get work done for the Aam Aadmi. I think that's pretty clear. It had more relevance, in a competitive framework against the Congress. Against the BJP, it has slightly, because like you said, the BJP has a bit of, many people feel the BJP is quite not very corrupt. So I think they're changing that now. I think we're getting to know how corrupt the BJP is. But yeah, that is something that we need to look at. I think the personality of the Aam Aadmi Party is reasonably clear, but it could be more clear. It could be, what are the essential elements of our party? What are our what are all our core values? How do we approach certain things? Could be more clear. We have some very nice distinctive assets. I mean, the cap and the broom, the jhadu, etc. They're very clear, very distinctive. And of course, I think Kejriwal is a huge brand in himself. probably I would say that at least in my ward, next to Modi, he's the most powerful brand in politics in many ways. He is really, he's really come up in the last 6 to 9 months. I would say. I didn't measure it because I was not measuring this in December, Jan. But from what I hear, these people in my ward talk, and and when I ask them, since when are you feeling like this? A lot of it is pretty recent, and the fact that of all the nice things that we've done in Delhi, which they know, the fact that it's the only party which has beaten the BJP so significantly in such a tough election is like wow. So all those things are really, big for them, and I think Kejriwal really stands out as because heroes are a big thing in India. I think so he is definitely taking that mantle and pulling the brand along in the right direction. So I would say there are still work to be done in any brand. There is work to be done. I think the BJP is far from perfect, but I think in our brand we have work to do. But I think it's also a brand with the most promise. It's got a very clear, a national proposition, a proposition that appeals to, that goes across caste and creed and religion. A promise that is sustainable and long-lasting, and now a promise that actually gets delivered because of the Delhi performance. So I think the brand has a lot going for it, but we need to, I think, sharpen it in some of its elements, and then its communication has to become very single-minded in building that.
That's good to hear. Anybody else have any?
Yeah, I have a question. This is the extension of the question this Vishnu asked. I'm Ashok. I'm from Goa in Arizona now. So my question is regarding branding, especially at the local level, not national level. So since you are a marketing expert, my question is regarding 3 things. One, the local level AAP is seen as a Delhi party still, even especially in Goa. And the reason is AAP itself is doing the wrong thing. AAP will say like, we did this in Delhi, we did that in Delhi. So that creates image that, oh yeah, you did all in Delhi, but what about Goa? Some of the things you did in Delhi might not even need in Goa because already there. And the second part is that BJP is still not viewed by many low-level people as corrupt. People don't understand corruption, and they don't know what type of corruption BJP does. So as a marketing expert, what would be your suggestion to take up AAP's image at local level and push BJP as a corrupt party?
Yeah, no, so Ashok, you're absolutely right. And I'm working on the same issues in my ward in Bangalore. That Aam Aadmi Party is seen as a fantastic Delhi party. And Kejriwal is the Delhi chief minister. So that's fantastic what you guys are doing there. But Bangalore is different, and I keep hearing that. And Karnataka is different, which it is, in many ways. And I'm sure Goa as well. But I think there is no easy way out of that. We have to build a brand in the wards, in the local areas by walking the talk there. We have to do the work. I spend at least 4 hours a day in the ward every day, talking to people, listening to them. I'm now making a schedule. So first it was more random because I was trying to figure out. Now I'm trying to make a schedule to make sure I cover every street, every at different times of day, things like that. Try and meet different people, try and get things done for them. I got my first round. I don't know. I know I'm learning Kannada. So imagine, I'm working in an area where I don't know the local language well, but now I'm speaking Kannada, and they wonder who's this crazy guy coming in, saying that. But one thing they don't know that I will not leave. I'm persistent. So I got a public toilet which was not there. So when I asked people, I said, look, what are your problems? And they said, look, so part of my ward is a residential area, but it's very small the plot sizes are 9 feet by 18 feet. That's it. Imagine a plot size of 9 feet by 18 feet built up to 5 floors. Okay. And the people who got this, it was slum dwellers. It was earlier a hut. It became a 1-story house. Now become a 5-story house. A place they live on the top 2-3 floors. They rent up, 1 floor. They rent up 2 floors. And the downstairs is usually a shop, rented out, ironing shop, tailoring shop, some courier shop, or God knows what. So these guys didn't have a place to go to the toilet. And they said, look, can you do that? So I started working on that, and within a month, we got a toilet sort of organized. It's still not fully operational, but at least it's identified. It's actually, it's ready to go. It just has to find an operator. So people are saying, hey, something happened here. When there was a Diwali time, the garbage collectors, or karmikas, they called. We organized a gift for them for blankets, because they were some of the workers who went right through the lockdown. They were working outside, so we did that, and people appreciated that. People noticed that I turned up for things that were important, and to them, there were road works that had to be sorted out. I was there. I don't say I'm there for everything. I'm sure I'm not. I'm still figuring it out. But I think we have to show that we are local. We are there. And very proudly we are there. And this is, of course, we do this in Delhi. The point about Delhi, of course, you're right, is that, corruption is important to highlight, because I think benefits, what happens when there's no corruption? You get these benefits. You get 200 units of electricity. You get 20,000 liters of water. You get, ladies going in metros and buses free. Because there's no corruption, you have that money. And to do these kind of things, you improve your schools, you improve your health facilities. So we have to kind of get them to understand that what we're talking about Delhi is not, tom-tomming this thing, but it's about, how much corruption there is. What if there was no corruption? This could really happen. It is not just a pipe dream. This can really happen. It can happen in our ward. It can happen in this street. It can happen in this city. If we can convince them that, then I think we have a handle. But it has to be done locally. It has to be done with a deep understanding of the local issues and the local mindset. There's no getting away from that at all. And we should not, because Delhi is just one city. There are, it's 30 million people. There are 1.3 billion people. So, we need to do that. And I think we will. I think we do that. We will show. I think the BJP, people feel the BJP locally are corrupt. At least in Bangalore, they do. They may not think Modi is so corrupt, though now they're wondering. But they certainly think that they know the local councillors and the local MLAs are corrupt. So I think we really have to hammer home on that. And this is what you're not getting is really because of the corruption. So that's my answer, Ashok. But I have to confess to you that I've been here 2.5 months, and it's all well to talk. The idea is, can you win a vote? You get somebody to vote for you, and until I do that, I'm really, I'm telling you things which I feel, but I have to prove them.
Thanks, Ashok. So I had another question for you. What are your plans after you win the election? What are your governance ideas for your ward? And I think we had a brief talk about that last time we spoke. So once we win, what would you do in your ward and your area?
Right. So I must tell you guys that when I started working, I've lived in this house where I live in for 9 years, and but my job was, I used to work Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday in Bombay, where Aditya Birla was headquartered, and come back on the weekend. And I lived in we all live in our own circles of friends and close family, and we visit these, whatever restaurants or cinema houses, malls. You don't really work a ward. So when I started working the ward, it was a totally different experience. And I realized, I kind of looked at it and said, this is, to me, this is the most beautiful ward in the country. And you might be surprised when I say that, but it's actually a ward in the center part of Bangalore. One part, the dominant part of the ward is a small village called Sampangi Ramnagara, which there used to be many power looms. They're weaving silk weavers, weaving saris and dress materials. That industry is declining very rapidly, but there are still about 300 looms there. There is actually one power loom. There is actually one hand loom. Actually people working on hand loom. I don't know if you've seen that kind of thing. Maybe you've seen it in a festival or something, but that is actually happening. There are narrow streets and gullies, and it's dirty. It's not, there are rubble all over the place. It's disorganized, and all that is there. But if you can think about it and say, look, what might this be? It could be a very different proposition. So I look at it at 3 levels. The first level is, we need to take out the dirt and the garbage. We need to clean the roads, get the roads right. We need to get the street lights right. We need to do all those basics, the drainage, the water, the electricity parts, etc. Those are very, very important. And those are the basics that have to get done. So that's one level. The next level is, I believe, schools, clinics, facilities, which are important, absolutely important for the population and attuned to that population. So that's the next level. But I think there's a third level beyond that, and that's what I think we need to have a vision of a ward as to what it could be. And my vision, as I saw it, was that there are, like I said, I think this could be the most beautiful ward in the country. There are these narrow streets I told you about. If you clean them up, if you have nice cafes and restaurants, Indian restaurants, or could be for whatever, but you get these silk loom, these power loom areas with silk materials, some small fashion boutiques, etc. It could be a street. You could imagine yourself walking down Europe, those narrow streets in the old cities. You could imagine yourself walking like that through those and enjoying, just a bit of time outside. There's a street called Commercial Street in my ward, which is, for those of you who may be familiar with Bangalore, it is one of the main shopping streets. It's like Connaught Place in Delhi or some Linking Road in Mumbai or whatever. That street, to me, that can be like if you've been to Istanbul, there's Istiklal Street, which is a really happening street. It's a lively street. It's full of fashion and restaurants, and people are walking up and down and enjoying themselves and having a good life. And that could be what Commercial Street is. So for every different place, there are these things about what this could be, and that takes on a more cultural, a social cultural sense, where people are meeting together, and this is where you create meeting points of different cultures. You don't separate them out, but you help them to come together and meet. And when they meet in these kind of situations, hopefully they integrate and they become, they understand each other better. So that's one level at the culture. At the technological level, actually getting sustainable energy. So all the rooftops of all these places, if you imagine solar panels, etc., and actually that this place could be a self-sufficient city in terms of energy. It is one of the places in Bangalore which has some nice parks. So if you could actually separate wet waste from dry waste and use the wet waste to make compost and give it to the park, you actually could sell it to the park because the parks are buying right now fertilizer. You could sell it to the parks, and from that money, use it to provide revenue for the ward for interesting activities. So, there are many things we can do. There are really many things one can do. But of course, it has to start with the basics. Getting the basics right, and then taking to the next level and taking to the next level. So those are my initial thoughts, and I'm really excited about the ward. Winning is really important because then you get power. But it is really important also to be vested in in that area and think, I'm here to be good here as well. I mean, it doesn't, I will win, I will fight the election like crazy and I will win the election, but I'm going to make sure that this ward actually kind of works towards achieving its destiny in a much better way than it would have been without me. So, so I think it's important to do that for each place. It's important not just to think about winning an election. Of course, you have to win an election, but it's important to have a vision about what it ultimately has to be, and being able to convey that to people.
That's wonderful. Actually, I went to a school right I think just one block away from Commercial Street. I have spent a lot of time in Commercial Street.
Which one?
The Army School, which is right at the corner of Commercial Street.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
So that's very
That's right. That's right.
So, I do hope you can implement those things you just said. It'll be great. So I want to ask you about how do you think the global team of overseas volunteers can help you and the Bangalore team in your campaign right now?
Like I said, first of all, I'm very new, so I'm sure that as I go along, I will learn things and pick up things, and maybe I'll be able to answer this even better a little later. But I certainly think that the global team. So first of all, thank you for all the support. And I think the fact that you're there behind us makes a huge difference as we walk the street and do things. I think there are two levels. One is in the area of managing campaigning and managing voter bases. And I think that's where you could help us. I was talking to a person called Prashant in Singapore, Aam Aadmi Party supporter, this morning. And what we were discussing was, how do we get a whole CRM kind of thing going, customer relationship management, equivalent of a voter relationship management. So, because I don't think we have databases of, hey, this guy was an Aam Aadmi Party supporter 5 years ago, and by the way, where did he go? So he went off somewhere, he either dropped out, lost interest, went to another party, or some of them actually went from being a passive supporter to an active supporter to actually now a leader. But do we have those mapped out so that we have a continuous funnel kind of thing moving in a certain direction? And I think it's really important to do that, because that is the way modern politics should be. I mean, it's not just about doing dharnas or doing rallies and doing motorcycle parades, etc. There has to be a more scientific approach to this. So I felt that there would be organizations abroad in Europe and America who probably know this pretty well. So, for example, the Democratic Party, to take an example, I don't know, with Obama, I believe they were pretty. They had a pretty good handle on their support base, right down to a county level or to a city level. Maybe the parties in England also have that. So if you guys can help us, to look at that building, and Prashant wants to do that as well. So if any of you would like to work on that, to help us figure out what are best practices in some of these things, and how do they do it, so that if Vishnu is, where he is, or let's say Vishnu's cousin in India is not an Aam Aadmi Party. I mean, he's become an Aam Aadmi supporter. He's not yet a volunteer, but he's kind of interested. How do we move through that funnel, or how do we understand where he's going, so that we can our responses to him in terms of messaging, in terms of contact, in terms of understanding him, become better and better. So that's one area that I think you could really help us with, bringing us best practices of voter management. The second could be actually, how do you handle local plans? I mean, how do you develop a local plan I'm not just campaigning, I'm actually talking about development plans for a ward. For example, what are the various facets? What can be done? What could be some promises that we could make to our electorate, which could be wow? So I could say, look, we've cleaned up the roads and we've cleaned up the street lights and we've cleaned up the garbage. But so will every other party say that. The only thing I might say is, look, we'll do it with honesty and we'll do it better, but the others might say, So what might be some of the wow things that might be ideas that we get? Now, of course, we have to test them here. We have to see that are they relevant, or are there some other things that are important? But that's a good source of ideas. So that could be a second thing that could be done. The third, of course, is funding. I think we are chronically underfunded. We come with very little, budget compared to any other party. I think I just put down my kind of budget that we need in my ward, for example. So for the next 6 months, I think we'll be needing about something like $20,000, about that. To open an office, to have 2 or 3 people who are support staff who can maintain these databases, who can actually say, to organize events, get things done, etc. And for digital marketing and for holding on-ground events. So my estimate initially was about $20,000. So I think if anyone can and really wants to support, I'd be very delighted to have you on board and actually be able to tell you what we're using it for. But this is going to be important as well. I'm sure that we talk to foreign, to people abroad, this comes up and as well. But I really think it's important. Most of us don't come with our money. I mean, I know a lot of people who are ward leaders who, we don't have the money to open an office, this, that. So forget about anything else. But it's important to do that, because if you have you're wondering, you have a team of 7 volunteers or 8 volunteers, where can you meet? And you're thinking, that's fine. You can always meet in your home, and that's fine. But for the people to figure out, hey, where can I go to when I want to see Aam Aadmi Party? It's important to know if you want to do some digital marketing, targeted digital marketing, on a larger scale and compete actually with some share of voice versus the BJP, you need to spend some money. And a lot of, from what I understand, a lot of voters vote for a winning party. So they vote for a guy or a party who they think will win. And therefore, you have to do the impression, at least, that you will win, which means you've got to hold a slightly, you've got to be visible, essentially. You've got to be really visible in their face, so to speak. So I think, that's the budget. There's some research stuff also, which is there. But broadly speaking, that's my third ask. So my 3 asks would be, tell us best practices in voter campaign management, or if you can, one or two of you can work with us, with Prashant on that, that'll be great. The second is best case examples of urban planning at a ward level. What could be some interesting ideas that you could make promises of in the BBMP elections? And the third is funding. $20,000.
That's wonderful. I'm sure we can all help in all those 3 aspects. And we will circulate this call at some point to the rest of our community, so they can also hear this conversation. The last question for you is: so with after COVID and all that, I keep hearing that India is one of the worst performing economies, like this, I think 18-19% contraction, and with all the guest workers having to go. So essentially, my question is, what keeps you optimistic about the future, about the party, about India, and where we're heading during this time of bleak economic distress?
Look, on the economic side, I'm really not optimistic. I think, to be honest with you, I have to be upfront. I walk the streets every day. I see jobs. Jobs is a huge issue. Services are a huge issue. So no matter what the press is saying and the stock markets are moving, they all look very good. But I feel that the rich are fine, but the middle class, the lower middle class, and the poor are having a very tough time and are not being addressed by this government in the right way. for Aam Aadmi Party, I'm very optimistic because I think, like I said, people are really impressed with what we've done in Delhi. And this, I think, has happened in the last 6 to 9 months. I was not, so I can't say I was there 9 months ago to talk to the same people. But when I hear them and they say, oh, Aam Aadmi Party, Kejriwal, and they know it, free water, Delhi, free electricity, school performance is less. So, but school performance, and basically they say, look, this guy is really doing something. And he's honest, his niyat achhi hai. So, but, he's got the right principles and values. And Aam Aadmi Party is like that. So if we can use this big strength that we have, and we will, that is the plan. Not as a, hey, we're a Delhi party, you've done, but as a, this is what can be done when you don't have corruption. And you have people like us together working, and including the voter who we're talking to, we together work on this. This is what we can do. And I think we have to come out very, very strongly on that. And I believe that, with that, we have an extremely good chance. I mean, partly because the Congress is in a total disarray. Regional parties are all, very regional and very dependent on almost a dynastic kind of approach in many of them. But I think if we really walk the talk and really become more visible and be more local, I'm very confident that this party is going to win. It will win. It will win in Karnataka. It will win in Goa. It will win in Bombay. People will change very quickly when they realize that that what we have to offer is something very genuine and really it can be done. What they right now can't even believe it can be done. But when they see Delhi, they say, what, if that can be done, wouldn't that be great? And I think when we get them to flip in that way, we're going to see a very sharp increase in Aam Aadmi Party's results over the next 2 years.
Thanks on that note, that positive note. Thank you so much, Prakash, for spending time with us. And during this time, we have spent time with your mother. So our regards to her. And hope you have a great evening. And everybody else, have a great day. And bye. Speak to you soon.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who is listening. I don't know all of you. Ashok, Arun, I have got a chance to hear you. If you have any questions anytime, please, maybe through Vishnu, you can reach out to me. I'm still learning, so I'm sure I will learn a lot from you. So any suggestions, any ideas, anything that you have, and like I said, if somebody can work with Prashant on the CRM, that'll be great. But anything else also, and we need to work together on this. There is a lot of work to be done, and we are facing a formidable opponent, a very formidable opponent. But we can get it done, and we will get it done. But we have to really, step up and work together on that. So anything that you need from me, I'm happy to help, and I look forward to maybe having you come visit my ward and just do some volunteer work with me. That would be great. Thanks a lot, and Vishnu, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.